Professor Hale stood at the front, his hands cradling a large, empty glass jar. His eyes twinkled with the promise of an unusual lesson. As the students hushed, he placed the jar on the table, its transparency reflecting the eager faces gathered around.
Today, we're going to learn about priorities,
he announced, reaching under the desk to retrieve a bag of large rocks. Once the rocks reached the brim, Professor Hale turned to the class.
Is this jar full?
He asked. The students nodded collectively, some whispering their agreement. With a knowing smile, he pulled out a bag of small pebbles and poured them into the jar. The pebbles cascaded around the rocks, filling the spaces in between.
Now is it full?
Professor Hale inquired again, observing as realization began to dawn on their faces.
And now?
He asked, his gaze sweeping across the room. A few students chuckled, others nodded, finally grasping the lesson. Professor Hale wasn't finished yet. He produced a bottle of water and, with a flourish, poured it into the jar. The water settled, absorbed by the sand, the container now undeniably full.
The jar represents your life,
he explained.
If you don't put the big rocks in first, you'll never get them in at all.
Lila realized how much of her time was consumed by minor tasks and distractions, leaving little room for what truly mattered.
I've been so caught up with exams and deadlines, I've neglected my family,
she muttered to herself, her voice barely above a whisper. It occurred to her that her family, her health, and her dreams should be the rocks in her life, not the sand of trivial pursuits. She started jotting down her priorities, each word reinforcing her newfound perspective. Lila resolved to make time for family dinners, to call her grandmother more often, and to pursue her passion for painting, which had long been shelved.
The big rocks first,
she whispered, a smile of determination playing on her lips. Professor Hale observed Lila from his desk, sensing the shift in her demeanor. With a nod of satisfaction, he packed away the materials, knowing that the lesson had not just filled a jar, but had planted seeds of change. As Lila exited the room, her step was lighter, her path clearer, defined by the rocks she would now choose to carry.